Hello, I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And I thought I'd show you something that's really quite striking that very few people know. And this is about how very little ground Russia has actually taken in Ukraine in the last 3 years since November 11, 2022 was about, everything's been pretty much stuck since then. And this was one of the biggest advances that Russia has done. It's advanced from just outside Donetsk to Pokrovsk. It's about 40 kilometers. And it's taken since November 11, and it's advanced to Avdiivka, and it's advanced. It's been a huge, massive fight, and thousands of soldiers have died to travel those 40 kilometers. Probably over hundreds of thousands have died if you look at the entire front line in that time. So now look at how that compares with the whole of Russia. So I'll gradually zoom out very slowly. See that little distance? That's the distance they've taken now spread out. And spread out. Just look how it's getting smaller. Now look at the size of Russia. And this is what I mean by saying that people have... it's very hard to know why Russia's even fighting this war. He's spent all this time since November 11 just to have that tiny distance compared to the vast size of Russia. And the various ideas that people have, but none of them make, none of them are very extremely convincing, and they just have different ideas about why Putin has decided to fight this war and keep fighting and keep on fighting. And so there's lots of suggestions, and presumably Putin knows why he's doing it, but the other people, they don't know. They have different ideas, and so this makes it really quite hard to know when Putin's going to stop, because nobody really knows quite why he's fighting. And he sees this moving very slowly in Donetsk as being, he gave up all of Syria, the entire Russian access to Syria, which it had supporting the Assad regime, and he could easily have spared a few soldiers from there to stop the rebels in open-top trucks. Instead, he ordered his soldiers in Syria to just evacuate and take away everything they could of what they had to save it from the rebels. And he gave up the Tartus port there and the air base. He's got no base in the Mediterranean anymore. He now, if he wants to sail to the Mediterranean, he has to sail from, you can't even see it, they Kaliningrad, or from further up there, or from way up there, all the way around through those lots of little small straits, and all the way to get to the Mediterranean. He's lost his entire presence in the Middle East, and for some reason he prioritizes this very slow advance, only 40 kilometers in Donbas, over keeping Syria. And we don't really know why he does that. And if that was better understood, then people would better understand how he could be persuaded to stop fighting. At some point he's going to stop fighting, but it's not for territory, not really. It's not for military advantage, that's obvious, because he'd keep Syria if he was worried about military advantage. So those are two of the things. It's not so that he can seem strong, because he tells the Russian people that he's strong. They'll just believe him. He told them that he's left Syria, that he evacuated Syria because he'd accomplished everything that Russia intended to do in Syria. That's what he told the Russian people. Nobody raised an eyelid over that. So Putin could have very easily stopped this war. So that's just a little thing I want to say now. So let's just look in again, just a very simple thing. Look how far we have to zoom in before we even see that very tiny advance. And he's adding there's 27 million square kilometers of Russia, and he's adding 1 square kilometer of that takes 100 Russian soldiers' lives to expand it by 1 extra square kilometer. And he's increased it this year so far, since the beginning of 2025, he's increased that 27 million square kilometers by 1,500 square kilometers, which is less than a 10,000th of the area of Russia, at the cost of 1,000 soldiers dying every day. And so I just thought, and so a lot of ideas that people have about why he's fighting, you can hope a lot of that will just disappear just as a result of knowing that. And also all this idea you get in the mainstream media, and they talk about these tiny advances, they blow it up sometimes as if it was some huge victory that Russia's done. But all of that fighting, all of the news stories you've had about Russian advances in Russia have been those tiny advances. You couldn't even see it. To put it in a rather striking way, if Putin, suppose somewhere on a wall, Putin has a map of the whole of Russia, and it might be even a big map covering the wall, to see the details of his advances. Certainly if it was a laptop-sized map, then you'd need a magnifying glass to see what anything. And even if it was quite a big thing, covering a couple of meters wide or something, you'd really have to use magnifying glass to see much by way of detail of what's happened since then. Even if it was zoomed in, so we're just looking at a tiny fraction of a really big map, it's still nothing. You need a magnifying glass to look and see what's going on there. So that's just a very simple point that I'm making. And then the other thing is that he is not being cornered, he's not being circled. This is NATO, border with NATO, and then he's got this border where Finland was just added to it, because of that's his border with NATO there, and it stops at Belarus. That's his border with NATO, and that he's not encircled by NATO. You could, since the world is a globe, you could almost say the other way around, that Russia is encircling NATO. That doesn't make sense either. So he's not cornered. He's just doing this very pointless war that makes no sense to most people. There are a number of different ideas as to why he's doing it, but we don't actually know which of those ideas is correct. And this is why he might be persuaded to stop. For instance, if it's to do with money, then the sanctions will affect that. It's a very expensive war, and the funding of the oil revenue, then that's once the government does lose its funding from the oil sales, then it's going to be losing lots of money because it can't pay for the war. That might be enough reason to stop. Might be a gasoline shortage to stop him. Might be all sorts of things stop him, and we'd have a better idea if we understood quite exactly why he was fighting. So that's the it's not going to go on forever. At some point he's going to decide that this is pointless, and the aim of and then just what I've already explained in my previous video, that what Ukraine wants is just to stop it along current lines, and that's what its allies want. And they're just trying to think of ways to what they can do, and that's what's got all the best brains in amongst Ukraine and its allies and all the leaders of all those countries. They're just trying to think, how can we persuade Putin to stop this pointless war? That's what they're all trying to do. And they've discovered that if they are conciliatory and they offer him things to stop, he just takes everything they give him and goes on fighting. And if you start seeming very tough, that's when Putin starts talking about peace and seems to be getting interested in it. And so that's what it's all about. And at some point this is going to stop. So that's all I wanted to say. Very, very simple point. And I hope this helps some of you to put it in a bit of perspective.